Yeah, I think just been a solid start. I think just continuing to be consistent, and I think in the bye week just working through different things as far as footwork, kind of adjusting different things that I think can help me in the pocket and just pocket awareness and different stuff like that. There's always a lot of things to improve, even when games go well. There's always a lot of things you can take out of that. So having 5 games so far this year to kind of nitpick and see different areas I can improve was good for the bye week to kind of take a step back and kind of focus within to see how we can improve.
Beau, you kind of talk about those improvements. It's been 3 straight games with an interception. What have you learned from those decisions that you'll be able to use going forward?
Yeah, I think just being consistent in my decision making. I think it's something that it's not just one thing. Each interception kind of has its own story. And it could be a different thing each time, whether it's just a bad decision or putting myself in a bad decision because maybe escaping the pocket too early, different things like that. So just kind of seeing why they happen and then just kind of fixing the different areas of why they would happen.
Beau, I mean, you talked about it a few times, the pocket awareness, and the footwork. What do you attribute that to, and kind of where do you circle needing to improve that? Is that kind of the initial reaction to pressure, or is it kind of wanting to run? Where do you attribute that to?
I'd just say kind of just the initial reaction to pressure. Maybe things being covered downfield. Like I said, it's not always just one thing. It could be different things. So I think just an overarching theme of just staying calm, trusting your protection and, keeping your eyes downfield.
Beau, that 20-plus yard down the field range is somewhere that you all just haven't really tested so far much this season outside of maybe the Central Arkansas game. Is that somewhere you'd like to test going forward, or are you all seemingly perfectly content with peppering sort of that 0 to 10, 10 to 20 yard range?
You're talking about just like the distance of the passes downfield?
Yeah, just air yards.
Yeah. I think it's really just taking what the defense gives you. Like you look at the first game compared to the last game we just played. It's like first game Central Arkansas they were letting us rip it down the field, and then last game they were just not. They weren't going to let that happen. So it's things like that. Like UMass, it's like you can't just force it down the field, because they're not going to give you that. You just got to take what the defense gives each week, and moving forward, depending on what kind of defenses the teams run and what they do, I think they'll kind of naturally happen.